Hey, this is Mr. Willis, and we're going to start a animation using Google Slides. So I've just created a new Google Slide file. The first thing we need to do is switch the layout of our slide. We don't want these big text boxes. So you just go up to the top, click on the word Layout, and switch it to blank. By the way, if you don't see these buttons up here, maybe you've clicked on a text box, just click on an empty spot on your slide and then they'll appear. Once again, layout and blank. Once you have done that, the next step is to start adding the pieces for our animation, and we're going to start with a background. So I'm going to click on the word change background, and for this we want to do an image. So I'm going to go ahead and choose an image. In this case, I'll do just a search. You can have something like from Google Drive, or if you have a certain website, you can use all those. I'm just going to do the search to keep it easy, and I'm going to search for space. Hit search, and I've got a bunch of nice big space pictures here. That one looks cool, and so I'll select it. And to make sure that this background shows up on every new slide that I make, I'm going to click on this button right here, Add to Theme, and then I can click Done. Okay, so now you see I have my space background, and that will be the background for every new slide that I make. Alright, so that's the second step, is all done. Next thing we're going to do is add whatever the thing is that we want to animate. So for this one, I'm going to keep it real simple. I just want to have a spaceship fly around in space. So to add the picture, I'm going to go up here to the little image button and then choose search the web. And when I do my search, I'm going to type in the word spaceship. And a good idea when you're doing something like this, that you're going to animate around there, you don't want the spaceship to have a background with it. So I'm going to add the letters PNG, and you might see it also has, like, one suggestion they have down here is to use the word Clipart. Either one can work. I like to use PNG, but a lot of times Clipart gives you good stuff too. So I'm going to search for spaceship PNG. That gives me some spaceships. Now notice some of these still have like a background on them, so you have to double check. So I'm going to look through here and find a good ship that I want to use. Okay, hey, I'm a Star Trek fan. Deal with it if you're not a Star Trek fan. And I'm just going to grab this Enterprise and drag it over there. And there we go. Now you can see that was a good one because there's no background behind the ships. Now while I'm here, this was a good example because it shows some things you can do to the pictures if you ever need to change them. In this case, I don't want to see both of these at the same time, so I'm going to crop this photo. So here's a little extra trick if you've never done this before. You double click the picture, and then do you see these little black lines that have appeared in all the corners and on the edges? Now if I put my mouse on those black lines and kind of shrink it down, you see how it's not shrinking the picture, but when I let go here, this ship up top, everything above the line is kind of grayed out. It's because I've cropped it, okay? And as soon as I think I've got my crop good enough, which there it looks good, I can just click over to the side, and now I'm down to just this ship. Alright, so now I have something on here that's ready to animate. The next thing I need to do is get this ship into position. So for my video, for one, I'm going to make it smaller, just so it's got more room to fly around. If it's that big, there's not much space for it to go. So I'll make it nice and small, and then I'm actually going to move it all the way down to the corner to where you can see it's almost like off the screen, and that's okay. I'm going to have it start there and then fly like out onto the screen here. So I'm going to get set up right there, and once I'm set, there you go. There's my first frame of the animation. So that's what the very first screen is going to look like. The next part of this animation is now that I have my parts together, I'm going to actually start animating. And I do that by making more slides. So I don't want to just use the plus button and make another blank one. I want to use what I already have. The way I do that is I right click on my last slide here, and then I click duplicate slide. And so you see I now have two slides. As I click back and forth, you can't tell the difference because they're exactly the same. And the only thing I'm going to change on slide number 2, make sure you're on slide number 2, by the way, and then I'm just going to grab my ship and I'm going to move it over just a little bit. Okay, that's all, just that little bit. Once I've done that, now I'm going to repeat this process. Now make sure you don't want to duplicate the first one. You want to always duplicate whatever's on the bottom, the last slide you've made. Duplicate slide, and once again, grab the ship here, move them forward just a little bit more. Repeat the process. Right click, duplicate slide, move the ship forward. Maybe I'll move them up just a little bit too. Right click, duplicate slide, move the ship forward. Okay, now at this point we can already kind of start to preview it. Watch what happens if I click back on slide number 1 here, and now I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard to kind of move down. You see how the ship just moves forward a little bit, and then as I go back up to slide number 1, it's kind of moving back. And so we're going to repeat this process until the ship has done whatever movement you want. Now a couple other little tricks you can do. I'm going to go ahead and just on my next one move it forward a bunch. Okay, hopefully I'll go back later and fill in all those other little ones. But once you get your ship out here, some other things you might want to try is you have a couple little controls on here. Like you have the size controls. If you were to start making it get a little bigger each time, it might look like it's getting closer, like it's almost flying towards you. Another thing that you can try is using this little circle that sticks out the top. And so if you can make it look like it's going to change direction. So if I do one like that, and then I'm going to duplicate that one, and on the next one I'm going to move it forward a little bit and tilt it just a little bit more, and let's duplicate that one more time, move it forward just a little more, tilt it just a little more. Now when I go back here and move forward, you see how it kind of looks like it's doing this banking up. So that's kind of a cool little trick you can do. One other tip as far as moving stuff around, you can use your mouse, which is what I've been doing, but another trick I really like is using the arrow keys on your keyboard. So if I push my arrow keys, you see how it basically moves one unit forward, backward, up, or down. That can be a really good way to smooth out your animation. Like if you move it 2 spots with every single frame, then it's going to move the same amount each one, and it will make your animation less choppy. So there's a few tips to get yourself started. Check back for the next video for what we do once we've kind of finished things up and we're ready to export.